Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In the previous episode, we followed the hopeful yet challenging journey of Tien and Jack. After a long period of waiting, patience, and continuous effort, they finally received good news as their IVF journey brought positive results. Tien is now 3 months pregnant, a milestone that may not seem long, but is filled with countless emotions, happiness, worry, excitement, and fears that are hard to put into words. Each passing day is no longer just an ordinary day for them. Every moment has become much more precious. Jack is always by her side, quietly caring for her, paying attention to even the smallest details in daily life. He doesn't say much, but every action clearly shows his concern and love for Tien. As for Tien, although her body has started to change and she sometimes feels tired, she still tries to maintain a positive mindset, gently nurturing the small but warm life they are building together. It seemed that after everything they had gone through, that happiness would continue to grow peacefully, just as they had been carefully preserving it day by day. But life is never something we can easily predict. There are unexpected turns, moments that seem peaceful yet quietly hold things no one can foresee. And so, this episode begins with a very ordinary morning, so ordinary that no one would think it would become a memorable turning point. That morning, Tien woke up early, as she had always been used to. Soft sunlight filtered through the window, filling the small room with warmth and calmness. The morning air was fresh and gentle, bringing a sense of peace just like any other day. Everything seemed to follow the familiar rhythm she had gradually become accustomed to over time. Even though she needed more rest during this stage, Tien couldn't completely give up her old habits. She got out of bed slowly, more carefully than before, yet still maintaining her sense of initiative in small tasks. She began doing simple chores around the house, not anything heavy, just familiar things that made her feel less empty inside if she didn't do them. Jack stepped out of the room and saw her busy with those small tasks. A hint of concern crossed his eyes, not because what she was doing was too much, but because he understood that at this stage, her safety and stability were the most important things. He gently spoke, his voice soft but full of care. "You shouldn't do too much right now, your health comes first." It wasn't the first time he had said that. In fact, it was something he reminded her of every day, as a way to remind himself as well, and to let her know that she no longer needed to push herself like before. Tien heard him and simply smiled. It wasn't a bright smile, but it was enough to show her understanding, along with something quietly thoughtful within her. She nodded in response, but deep down, she still wanted to do something, even if it was just a little. Not out of obligation, but simply to feel that she was still contributing to their shared life, still maintaining her familiar rhythm, not completely dependent on someone else's care. After everything settled, the two of them went out together. Not for work, not to handle anything important, just a gentle walk. They moved slowly, without rushing, without any specific destination, simply to breathe in the fresh air, to change the scenery a bit, and to feel each other's presence more clearly in every moment. The road they walked on wasn't crowded or noisy. There were only the familiar sounds of the morning, the soft wind, the rustling leaves, and occasionally the quiet sounds of life from nearby homes. In that space, their conversations also became lighter and simpler. There were no big worries, no complicated thoughts, just small talks, soft laughter, yet enough to create a peaceful feeling that was hard to describe. At times, Jack would glance at Tien, his eyes softening, as if trying to hold on to every moment. Then he suddenly joked, his voice carrying a hint of playfulness. "Later, when the baby is born, they'll probably be more like you, since you're so hardworking." That wasn't just a joke, it was his way of expressing hope and anticipation for the future. A future where it wouldn't just be him and Tien, but also a little member growing day by day. Tien laughed. This time, her smile was clearer, her eyes shining with a gentle, pure happiness. Without needing to say much, just a moment like that was enough for her to feel that, even though the future still held many unknowns, the present was already something worth cherishing. But then, that fragile happiness could not last any longer. Everything changed so quickly that no one had time to realize what was truly happening. When their steps were still light on the familiar road, when the laughter had just echoed and hadn't yet faded, at that very moment, an unexpected sign suddenly appeared. While walking, Tien suddenly stopped. It wasn't just ordinary fatigue, nor a passing dizziness. It was a sharp pain that suddenly arose in her lower abdomen, faint at first, but carrying something she couldn't ignore. She stood still for a few seconds, as if trying to reassure herself that it was only a mild reaction from her body. But the pain didn't stop there. It didn't disappear like a passing sensation. Instead, it became clearer, stronger. Each wave of pain seemed longer, deeper, making it impossible for her to keep walking normally. Jack immediately noticed the change. He stopped, turned to look at her, his eyes instantly filled with tension. "What's wrong?" The question came out quickly, almost immediately, but it wasn't answered the way he had hoped. Tien said nothing. She simply placed her hand over her stomach, her fingers tightening instinctively. Her face began to pale, no longer holding the calmness from before. A flicker of confusion, a trace of fear passed through her eyes, yet she still couldn't find the words. By now, the pain was no longer vague. It came in stronger waves, clearer, relentless, one after another, giving her no time to recover. Her body began to lose control, and within just a few short seconds, she no longer had the strength to stand as she had before. Her steps became unsteady. Without needing any further explanation, Jack understood that the situation was far from simple. No hesitation. No second thoughts. He quickly held on to Tien, helping her move away and immediately rushing her to the hospital. Everything happened in urgency, there was no room for delay or doubt. During the drive, the atmosphere inside the car was almost completely silent. Jack didn't say much. He focused entirely on driving, yet his eyes kept glancing toward Tien, as if making sure she was still okay, still there beside him. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, his fingers tense, revealing the worry building inside him. At that moment, only one thought remained in his mind. "We have to make it, we have to." There was no space for assumptions. No time to think of the worst. Only one hope, that there was still a chance. When they arrived at the hospital, Tien was quickly taken in for examination. The door closed. And from that moment on, time no longer seemed to move in a normal way. Every second felt longer, heavier. Jack stood outside, unable to sit still. He walked, then stopped, then walked again. His eyes followed every door in the hallway, each time someone stepped out, his heart tightened, only to fall again when it wasn't what he was waiting for. The surroundings remained the same. But for him, everything seemed to fall into a heavy, suffocating silence. And then, the door opened. The doctor stepped out. Just by looking into those eyes, Jack already understood what was coming. He didn't need to hear the full sentence. He didn't need any further explanation. That heavy gaze had already said everything. A quiet sentence, yet it cut through the stillness around him. "We're very sorry." Everything stopped. Sound, thoughts, emotions, all seemed to freeze in a moment no one could have prepared for. The baby was gone. Not because of any mistake. Not because of carelessness. The doctor gently explained, their voice calm but filled with empathy. It was a natural response of the body, something medicine cannot always control. There are cases where, no matter how careful one is, no matter how much has been done, the body still cannot hold on to the pregnancy. It was not Tien's fault. Not Jack's fault. And not anyone's fault. But, no matter the reason, the pain did not lessen. Tien lay quietly on the hospital bed. She didn't cry. Didn't speak. Didn't react the way people might expect when facing loss. It was simply a silence that stretched on, so heavy it felt suffocating. Her eyes looked far away, unfocused, as if all her emotions had been locked somewhere she herself could not reach. Jack sat beside her. He held her hand tightly, as if trying to give her something, even just a little, so she wouldn't feel alone. He didn't say much. Didn't try to explain. Didn't offer grand words of comfort. He only spoke softly, gently, almost as if he was speaking more to himself than to her. "It's okay, we'll try again. I'm always here with you." But perhaps he himself was also struggling, little by little, just to keep from breaking in that very moment. In the days that followed, everything seemed to slow down quietly, yet felt heavier than ever. The house, once filled with warmth, once echoing with soft conversations, familiar questions, and moments that seemed so ordinary, now became so silent that every empty space could be clearly felt. The familiar sounds were no longer there. No more conversations flowing through each meal. No more glances carrying hope for a future that was once taking shape. Instead, there was a lingering silence. A silence not because there was nothing to say, but because there was too much that could not be put into words. Tien gradually became quieter. She no longer started conversations like before, no longer asked about the small, everyday things. The talks that once came so naturally began to fade, until they disappeared without either of them realizing when. She no longer spoke about the plans they had once imagined together. No more words about the future. No more visions of a home filled with a child's laughter. And no longer that sparkle in her eyes whenever she thought about what was ahead. Everything seemed to be put away. Not because she wanted to forget, but because she no longer knew how to face it. In its place, a stillness began to grow within her. A quiet, expanding emptiness that slowly held back all her emotions somewhere deep inside. She began to blame herself. Even though the doctor's explanation was still clear. Even though Jack had always been there, never once blaming her, never showing any resentment. But somehow, it wasn't enough to quiet the thoughts forming in her mind. Because sometimes, what hurts the most is not what others say, but what we tell ourselves. In Tien's heart, unanswered questions kept repeating. If only I had been more careful. If only I hadn't done that. If only I had paid more attention. If only. Those thoughts didn't appear once and disappear. They came back. Again and again. Like a loop with no end. And each time, the weight inside her grew heavier. Slowly, she began to withdraw. Not because she wanted distance, but because she didn't know how to face her own emotions anymore. Jack saw everything. He didn't need her to say it. Didn't need her to explain. Just by seeing her silence, the way she avoided his eyes, the way she was no longer herself, he understood. He knew she was hurting. Knew she was blaming herself. Knew she was trying to hold everything inside, but couldn't find a way to release it. But he didn't force her to be strong. He didn't tell her to forget. He didn't expect her to return to how she was right away. He understood that some pain cannot be erased with a few comforting words. Some emptiness needs time and the quiet presence of someone who stays. So he chose to stay. Silently. Without show. Without too many words. He cared for her through the smallest things. From daily meals, he paid attention to how much she ate, whether she could still keep her usual habits. From her sleep, he watched to see if she truly rested, or if she just lay there unable to sleep. Even in the smallest moments, like the way she sat quietly by the window, or how she avoided topics she once cared about, he noticed it all. But he didn't ask too much. Didn't try to pull her out of her emotions too quickly. He simply stayed there. By her side. Like a place she could lean on at any time, whether she spoke or not. There were nights, when everything around them had fallen into silence, Jack would suddenly wake up. He turned to look. And realized that Tien was still awake. She lay there, unmoving, making no sound. Just a long, quiet stillness, as if she was lost in thoughts she couldn't escape. When she noticed he was awake, she said nothing. She simply turned her face away. As if she didn't want him to see. As if she didn't want to face it. Jack didn't ask. He didn't call her name. Didn't try to start a conversation. He simply adjusted the blanket gently. Then reached out and held her hand. A very soft grip. Not too tight. Not rushed. But enough for her to feel his presence. As a quiet way of saying, no matter how things change, no matter how difficult the emotions become to name, there will always be someone beside her. And she is not alone. But will all of this, the quiet love that Jack has always given to Tien, the patience he has never lost, and the silent efforts he continues to hold on to every single day, be enough to help her overcome this pain? Because some pain doesn't only exist in the present. It weaves itself into every thought, every memory, every moment that a person cannot easily let go of. It is not a sadness that can disappear after just a few days. Nor a feeling that fades away with a few comforting words. It is a very real emptiness. An emptiness that only the one experiencing it can truly understand how heavy it is. Will Tien be able to step out of the thoughts that are holding her back? Will she be able to let go of the unanswered questions, the endless what-ifs repeating in her mind, and once again look forward without carrying so much weight? Or will everything that has happened become a quiet wound that lingers deep inside her for a long time? And if that is the case, what will their journey ahead look like? When trust has been shaken, when hope has once been interrupted, will they be strong enough to continue walking together? Or will it take more time, more understanding, and many silent moments, to slowly find themselves again? The story of Tien and Jack is not only a journey of happiness. It is also a journey of challenges, of loss, and of how each person chooses to face the unexpected in life. And perhaps, what matters most is not what has happened, but after everything, how they choose to move forward. Will they be able to hold on to each other tightly, just as they once did? Will they be able to overcome these difficult days together, and open a new chapter once again? All of this will gradually unfold in the episodes to come. If you've stayed with the story until now, thank you so much for your time and for being part of today's journey. If you felt something, even just a little, don't forget to like to support, leave a comment to share your thoughts, and subscribe so you won't miss the next episodes. See you again in the next video.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình nhé. Hôm nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến với mọi người video tiếp theo về câu chuyện của Tử Tiên. Mình sẽ nói đúng là của Tử Tiên và Giác. Thì như mọi người cũng đã biết thì Tử Tiên và Giác thì có con, cả hai đã chấp nhận làm IVF, tức là thụ tinh nhân tạo. Tuy nhiên trong tập này thì đã có một diễn biến bất ngờ xảy ra khi mọi sự đã không suôn sẻ, khi mà Tử Tiên và Giáp mắc phải một sai lầm khi kiểu giống như là trong quá trình mang thai nhưng mà đã không kiểm tra kỹ, dẫn tới là cơ thể của người mẹ không chấp nhận được cái phôi thai đó và khiến tới đào thải. Việc này khiến cho Tử Tiên rất là đau lòng và tự trách, còn Giác thì anh không hề trách cô mà luôn ở bên yêu thương chăm sóc.